And now we're seeing what's happening with ICE in Minnesota and other places, the killing of Renee Good. It is a rogue agency. And Donald Trump has empowered them and essentially given them the ability for them to do whatever they want. They're wearing masks. They're not identified. They're snatching people into cars. They're detaining American citizens. This is not what law enforcement is about. There's been over 170 U.S. citizens that have been detained by ICE, many of whom are veterans who served this country, who have no idea why they were detained and then are not charged at the end of 3 or 4 days in detention. What are we doing?
Congressman Robert Garcia comes to this work not just as a member of Congress, but as an immigrant, a former mayor of one of California's most well-known municipalities, and now the new ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, a role he earned in a contested race against more senior members. That alone says something about this moment and about him. This conversation is about power, accountability, and the human consequences of oversight, not just the politics of it. Today, my friends, I am joined by my good friend, Congressman Robert Garcia, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, welcome to At Our Table.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
It is so good to see you. And I just want to take, I met you when you were mayor, but I just want to say how proud I am of you and all of the amazing things that you are doing as congressman and now the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. So thank you for that on behalf of a very grateful nation and so many of us who just want accountability and justice. So thank you.
No, of course. I mean, you definitely, I think coming to Congress, it's important to do stuff and to be active. And I'm grateful that the caucus has given me this opportunity to fight back and push back and kind of live my values. And so a lot of work ahead of us, but yeah, no, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Now, before we get into politics and your life and how you grew up, I do need to ask you something because I found this out that you are a Trekkie.
I am.
So I love Star Trek myself. And my question to you is, all of the captains, who's your favorite? Who's your top 3 captains? So I'm going to go through for those of you who may not be into Trek. So there's, of course, Kirk. That's OG. Picard. Sisko, DS9. Janeway on Voyager. Pike, which is the New World, Brand New World. Burnham, Discovery. And Archer for Enterprise.
I mean, pretty easy who my top one is.
Yeah.
At my top 3, one would be Jean-Luc Picard.
Hands down
the best.
Picard is the best.
And I grew up on The Next Generation.
Yeah,
so
same
for
here.
me, I've seen all the Star Trek and all the franchises. I've seen all, but I mean, for me, Picard was like, I was in my most kind of formative Star Trek years.
Yes.
So I think that really, he was
Same
the best. Second favorite would probably be Sisko.
Yeah.
Obviously, he wasn't a captain initially during DS9. But I love DS9.
Yeah.
It might be the best of all of the series if you look as a whole.
When you
from
look at totality of it.
Totality and thematically, I think Sisko is probably my second favorite. And also because I think it overlapped with The Next Generation in characters and the time period. And then Janeway would be 3. Obviously woman, for the first time on the show, and I also love Voyager.
Yeah.
Again, same kind of era of Star Trek. So those captains are probably my top 3.
Well, I got Sisko is probably my number 4, but so for me it is Picard, Janeway, and then I'm going to go with Kirk.
Okay.
And then Sisko probably.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I like Kirk too, but it's not my top 3.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Star Trek is definitely one of those things that it speaks to the moment, and it speaks to the days and the challenges that we are dealing with and living with right now. And I want to talk a little bit about the fact that, you immigrated to this country.
Yeah.
As a child, and you were raised by a single mother. I was raised by a single mom also. And your mom believed deeply in public service. So when you walk into Congress with that background, every single day you walk through Stat Hall, you walk onto that floor. What are the voices that you are carrying with you? What do you bring with you when you come to
Yeah, I
Congress?
mean, I think first, like, there's different parts. I think first, my mother, who's no longer with us, but there's probably nobody that had a bigger impact, I think, on my life than her,
Yeah.
and certainly on my family. I think about her. I think about my grandmother, kind of two strong women,
Mhm.
immigrated here with nothing, worked hard, came here, were cleaning houses, and became a nurse's assistant, and worked at a clinic, and just kind of got herself through life. Had never gone to college, but worked really hard. It's a very typical immigrant story, and so I always think about her. She was always insistent that be kind to other people. She was a very kind person.
Yep.
And I think that's the kind of like politics that I like to really embody is, if I, like I'm going to fight for what I believe in, but I consider myself a pretty like nice person. And I'm trying to be nice and kind to others. And I think that's with me. It's
Mhm.
her. Um, she was kind. She was strong. Never forget that I'm from an immigrant family. I'm obviously have a lot of different. There's a lot of I'm a diverse person in a lot of ways, but I think my immigrant experience makes me for me the most me, and in some ways like the most American. My mom was very patriotic. She
Yeah.
always said, "Love your country, give back to your country. This country gave us a lot." So I grew up as a very patriotic person. I was never one of those, kind of always looking at like the glass is half empty as it relates to our country. I always was, this is a great, exceptional nation. I think now we're in obviously a very different moment, which I've struggled with that same level of patriotism. But she was a strong patriot. And I think that is the first thing that's with me. Then I think about, as far as like leadership, I had a mentor when I was in college who was the president of the university. I was student body president when I was in college,
Mhm.
and he was president of the university, and he was a great mentor of mine. And he would always talk about the power of like positivity and being positive and willing yourself to be positive and happy. And those, I think, the two of them, I think, really are the voices that I try to emulate when I think about like leadership and the kind of person I am. But then there's all sorts of like other things that float in your mind. I mean, look, I think as a young kid of color, from a non-traditional background, you come into Congress and you have a lot of the imposter syndrome. I've had
Yeah.
that my whole life. I mean, I was mayor of one of the largest cities in the state of California, and you still have imposter syndrome when you walk into City Hall because you're like, how did I get here? You're in Congress. I'm like, how am I in Congress with all these people that I admire?
Yeah.
Meeting all these members of Congress when I just got here, and I was like, these are like heroes of mine. Like, what am I doing here? So I think there's some of that. And I think it's okay. I think that brings a level of like humility to the
I
job.
think so.
And I think it makes those of us that come from working class backgrounds in the Congress. Look, there's a lot of very wealthy people in Congress.
A lot.
A lot of like high-powered lawyers and folks that have gone to some of the best schools in the country. And that's great. I think Congress should be made up of all types of folks. But I think if you come from a working class background, particularly an immigrant one, you struggle with that, the belonging. But I've met some really good friends. I have a really great support network of members of Congress that I became close to.
Mhm.
And I think we add a very unique voice. My group of friends, actually all 5 or 6 of us that are closest, are all working class folks. And we are all in my class.
Who are some of those
Some of my
folks?
closest friends are like Greg Casar
Mhm.
from Texas, would be Delia Ramirez from Illinois, Chicago. I think about Summer Lee from Pennsylvania, Maxwell Frost, from Florida, and then Morgan McGarvey from Kentucky. We just are very close friends, and they're a support system. I'm very close to my entire class. There's 37 of us,
Yeah.
but especially them. They were very helpful in the transition.
Well, you talked about kindness and positivity, and this moment, and particularly the committee that you sit on, that you are the ranking member on, can really harden a person, right? And when you think about the vitriol that sometimes we see that is just pervasive across our political spectrum, but also particularly in the House and Congress. What part of yourself do you work hardest to protect from that cynicism, from that just, they punch me, I'm punching them back, or like, and protect that the kindness and the positivity that you say you bring from a mentor and from your mom.
It's interesting because I actually have pretty decent, I have a lot of, as anyone in the country, I have a lot of anger towards Donald Trump and towards Republicans that are not keeping him accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of disgust at what we're doing to our country and our Constitution. But when it comes into being actually in the Congress, I actually get along. I'm pretty agreeable with most of my colleagues, even though I fiercely disagree with them. Even the Republicans on Oversight, I think they have some of the worst, horrible ideas, and they're causing great harm. Yet I try to be agreeable because I know as the leader of the committee, I also have to work with them.
Yeah.
So I have decent relationships within the Congress.
That's great.
As it relates to being positive, it's hard to be positive all the time when it comes to the president.
Yeah.
Because the president, I think, is the antithesis of what I've been taught. He represents to me the exact opposite of the kind of person you should be. He's a liar. I was all taught to tell the truth. He's mean and vengeful, and I always taught to forgive people. He distorts for his own personal enrichment. I was always taught to give back. I didn't come to Congress with a big stock portfolio or tons of money or anything else. I worked for my college education. I went to grad school. I was all because my family and I worked hard, and he's been handed things on a silver platter, and yet was never enough. He always had to take more and more, especially from working people. And so I think he represents to me just the worst in us as a people. And I think he is, well, besides being the worst president I think we've ever had in the history of the United States.
I agree.
I think he's the worst person to ever hold that office. And I think will be remembered as a real stain in our country and the presidency.
I think when I think about Trump, and I think about in context of other presidents, I do believe, even though I disagree with the manner in which they loved America, because I don't think they didn't love America. I think every president probably loved America, but the manner in which they loved America, probably I didn't agree with. But I don't think Donald Trump loves America. Yeah. I think Donald Trump loves Donald Trump.
That's right.
And he loves power. And this is just giving him a vehicle in order to maximize that power. But I don't think the things that he, his actions are rooted in a love of this country.
I mean, yeah, they're rooted in a love of himself.
Yeah.
And I think that I hope people recognize the damage he's, I just can't think of a more destructive force. And look, I'm one of those that believes that he's actually, he's effective.
Oh yeah.
He's a very effective person. He is a exceptional communicator, even though most of us dislike the way he does it. He has created something. He created a movement behind him. So he has had great success in tearing us down and remaking the country in his image, in causing more damage than almost any single person to the press and information and truth and public education and the way we collect history. And he has been so harmful to us. I hope people recognize that he has fundamentally changed us. And he really took out the worst in us, put it on display. I mean, the fact that people are celebrating now, the things that people celebrate, and the harm is pretty sick.
Yeah, it is. So, Congressman, you govern as a mayor during real crises and not just theoretical ones. What do members of Congress who've never run a city miss about how federal decisions actually impact those folks who live in those cities?
I'm so grateful to have been a mayor and with that experience, because I understand what federal dollars actually mean to communities. Look, back home when you're a mayor, you're not really involved in a lot of partisan decisions. You're trying to just deliver services. And I think people need to remember here in DC that we have to fund our cities and states appropriately, that transportation dollars or housing dollars or federal healthcare dollars that's actually impacting real people. I've seen the real impact that federal funding for housing means to folks that are low income, that are trying to find their first home, or a veteran for the first time. What funding healthcare centers actually looks like on the ground. And so I think I wish there were more mayors actually in Congress, because I think that you'd have a lot more bipartisanship as it relates to federal funding for cities.
Let's talk a little bit about you. You are now the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, and you want to contest a race with a number of senior Democrats. And there's a seniority system that really underpins the Dem caucus. But you're a fairly new member, and you won this race as ranking member. What was that experience like for you personally, and what does it mean to you in terms of how you earned the trust of the caucus?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a very complicated process. When I got to Congress, obviously my class, I was elected class president. So I knew pretty quickly that I'm doing something to contribute and organizing my class and representing the class to the leadership, and so I really felt supported, and I had a great relationship with the leader, who I support, of course, strongly. And so being on a freshman member on Oversight, what had happened was, going into the new Congress, at the end of the Congress, there was a change. There was going to be a change in leadership. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was going to run for ranking member. And I was so excited. And I actually said, I'm going to support you. And so she ran, and I was one of her kind of key supporters in the caucus. I was on her whip team, and we fell really short. Yeah. And I remember the way the caucus works in these elections is each member picks 3 kind of like validators to like nominate to you into the position. And I was one of Alex's nominators, and I was really proud to do so. And then I was really kind of disappointed that we had an opportunity to elect this kind of forward-looking person. Now, person that won, Jerry, was fantastic. Didn't know him very well, was new to Congress, but man, a great guy. He took over. He did a fantastic job. And then, of course, when the opening happened, which was so horrible, what happened with Jerry, I really thought back to, man, the caucus, would they really elect a newer person or a younger person? I was unsure, but I felt that same kind of drive for change, that we had to change, and that we couldn't continue to just do things the same. And so when I ran, there were 3 other great colleagues of mine that ran, 2 of which were definitely senior and kind of the next in line. And so I just thought, I just felt like I could do it. I was like, I think I got this. And I was told by my team and others that there hadn't been a sophomore elected to ranking member in over 100 years in the Congress on our side. So I definitely knew that history was not on my side. And I knew it would be hard, but I also worked really, really hard. And I talked to every single member. I laid out a plan. I talked about why the moment required something different, and in the Trump era. And look, we won that election. You go up twice. You run at a smaller steering and policy committee of about 60 members. And I won on the first ballot, which was crazy. I thought,
and that's the big hurdle.
That's the big hurdle. Yeah. And the fact that I won a majority on ballot 1 with 4 candidates really gave me that kind of push at the full vote. Then I also won on the first ballot. And so we won with huge majorities both times. And I'm just really grateful.
Oh, so, congratulations. Because that's a major, major achievement. As somebody who's been in and around the House Dem caucus for at least 25 of almost my 50 years. It's a big, big achievement.
Thank you.
Now, as ranking member, how do you lead when the majority is often chasing headlines instead of facts? I mean, I'm sure that is frustrating.
It's frustrating. I just accept the fact that they like to lie and exaggerate and cause problems and say things that are not true, because they take their cues from their leader. Yeah. They take their cues from Donald Trump. And so it's just that's what they do. But I think for us, we've tried to build a really powerful communications operation within the Oversight Committee. I mean, I'm really proud that we have, in our short time of being there, we're now by far the largest followed committee in the Congress. Oversight Democrats are. We weren't, a year ago on all platforms, and we're communicating in a way that I think is reaching people. And we built the communications team, and I told the team, I said, if no one knows what we're doing, it's not working.
That's exactly right.
So you got to tell people what you're doing. And
Yes.
so we had to transform our communications operation to start telling a narrative. And I think we've been very effective. And I think, Epstein was our first opportunity to start telling a narrative, using communication in a way that strengthens the truth, and then be guided by truth and justice. I always tell our folks and our Oversight Democrats, the two things that we're going to focus on is truth and justice.
Yeah.
And that's our goal.
And you mentioned Epstein. The Epstein case continues to linger because it's really exposed how powerful people can evade consequences while the victims wait and they continue to suffer. What do you believe the government still owes the survivors? And what do you believe the government also owes the public in terms of truth and transparency and justice and accountability?
So a few things. I think one is the government owes the survivors justice. For the survivors, justice is a release of all the files to the public, so that they themselves can see and understand, in some cases, what happened to them, who the co-conspirators were.
Do you trust that DOJ will actually release them?
I don't trust anything the DOJ does. So I think we have to be very honest that we have a corrupt Department of Justice.
Yeah.
As far as, but it doesn't mean we're going to, we're not going to try, and we're going to work really hard to ensure that we get the survivors justice, whether that is tomorrow or whether that's a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
But our investigation is just starting. And so who were the co-conspirators that worked with Jeffrey Epstein? What did the president know? When did he know it? What was his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein like? Why was Mar-a-Lago so central to the trafficking of women and girls? Who were all the institutions that were funneling so much money to Epstein? And why did, in the prosecution of Epstein, the government decide to not go after any of the powerful men that brutalized, raped, trafficked women and girls?
Yeah.
Why were those decisions made? And then how does Alex Acosta get to make that decision and then become the U.S. Labor Secretary? So all of this is important. Only 1% of the files have been released so far. So only a tiny piece of all the files the DOJ has have been released.
When the law stated
that all files have to be released. So back in December.
So what are you and the Democrats on House Oversight, and there's some Republicans who wanted the files out as well. So what's the next step to push DOJ to release the files?
Look, we've requested a judge in federal court to appoint a special master.
Mm-hmm.
There's legal routes that we and others are taking. There's obviously possible contempt of members of the administration. There's a continued public pressure. But the most important thing is for the public to continue to be informed and to ramp that pressure, because it's now the own base of Donald Trump. It's now that MAGA base that is demanding transparency and answers. The Epstein files are the most bipartisan thing in the country.
Yeah.
It's like you can ask a Republican or Democrat the same thing, and everybody wants to release the files. And the fact that Donald Trump has led this White House cover-up should concern every American.
Another big issue right now, ICE. We saw recently just a travesty in Minnesota. And we're seeing it across the country. For a lot of immigrant families and a lot of folks who just love and respect their neighbors, ICE is not an abstract debate for them. It's about fear, it's about separation, and now it's about trauma. How do you ensure, as the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, how do you ensure oversight centers human impact and again, justice? Because right now, a lot of folks feel as though what is going on is unjust, and that ICE is just doing whatever the hell they want to do, regardless of what the law is and what our standards that we have for law enforcement.
Well, in many cases, they are doing whatever the hell they want, right? Yeah. Which is just, it's so shameful to watch. So a few things. One is when if someone were to ask you, what's the work that Oversight Dems are doing, even in the minority? Like, what does our agenda look like? It's the Epstein investigation. It's Trump family corruption. It's what RFK Jr. is doing right now to our health systems. And then the fourth major investigation that we're really focused on right now is around ICE and DHS. And so it is a key part of our work. We've actually launched a immigration enforcement dashboard a few weeks ago, actually at the end of last year. That actually tracks possible cases of ICE misconduct across the country and collects them in one place. It's the only enforcement dashboard that's collecting these cases in the country. And we host that on the Oversight website. And we work with different national groups to ensure that we're including all of these cases. We've had field hearings in Los Angeles on ICE. We had a field hearing here where we invited U.S. citizens. There's been over 170 U.S. citizens that have been detained by ICE, many of whom are veterans who served this country, who have no idea why they were detained and then are not charged at the end of 3 or 4 days in detention. What are we doing? And now we're seeing what's happening with ICE in Minnesota and other places, the killing of Renee Good. It is a rogue agency. And Donald Trump has empowered them and essentially given them the ability for them to do whatever they want. They're wearing masks. They're not identified. They're snatching people into cars. They're detaining American citizens. This is not what law enforcement is about. And as a former mayor who had 750, 800 police officers that were part of our department who I was proud to serve alongside, good officers across this country, they also are horrified by what's happening with ICE. And their jobs are now harder because of the distrust that ICE is creating.
That's exactly right.
With law enforcement across the country. I don't think people understand the damage that ICE is doing and causing right now to relationships and trust that police departments have worked hard to rebuild, particularly since George Floyd. Yeah. And so now we are back to this place where there is this distrust of law enforcement. And I hope that Republicans and other conservatives understand that they're trying to build trust within police departments. This is the exact opposite way of doing it.
Let's fast forward. This time, 2027. We're in 2026 now. 2027. Hakeem Jeffries is now Speaker of the House.
Yes.
Robert Garcia, you are now Chairman of the House Oversight Committee. What does that look like? What does your chairmanship look like? What are the first 3 things that you want to do as chair of the Oversight Committee?
So I think one thing that's exciting is, as Leader Jeffries just talked about what his agenda would look like in the majority and as Speaker, he's been pretty clear, right? He's talked a lot about healthcare, which we're going to support. He's talked a lot about affordability, which we're going to be all in on. And he's also talked about taking on government corruption. And so I'm looking forward to helping lead that government corruption piece of the leader's agenda and our agenda for the country. And within that piece, day one for me is going all in on getting the truth out about Epstein. So then we will have the power to issue every subpoena we need to issue on day one, get all the information from all the banks that we need on day one, bring in and expose all the co-conspirators, force productions. And if the DOJ is not going to put all the information out, we're going to force productions from the banks and other nonprofits and estates that have the information and uplift the voices of the survivors. That is part of the day one agenda. The other part of the agenda is squarely focusing on Trump family corruption and the enrichment of Donald Trump and his family.
Which a lot of people don't really know. The news media talked so much about Hunter and Payne.
That's nothing. What are they even talking? I mean,
and there's no corruption there. These folks are actually making bank. Donald Trump's wealth has increased by whatever factors in it. Who knows how much the kids are making right now?
Donald Trump is every single day enriching himself and his family just in ways that are corrupt.
Yes.
It's about selling access. It's this coin that he put out where foreign governments and God knows who is dumping in all of this foreign dark money. We have no idea, no accountability how much the Trump family is making off those coins. It's the real estate deals that are happening in other countries as Donald Trump is trying to do and act some crazy foreign policy. It's the Kushners and Jared, going in right behind Donald Trump as he's going and traveling. So the amount of corruption is staggering. And there has to be accountability.
Yes.
And then the third, you only gave me 3. There's a lot, but the third one on day 1 is we're going to hold Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Tom Holman, and the whole crew that are causing this horrific harm across the country with ICE and through DHS accountable, and get them in front of our committees, subpoena, and find out what happened, who's got to be held accountable, because we cannot. I don't believe that post-Trump administration that somehow we can just live and learn and forget about what happened. No. I'm not. Before I came to Congress, I was I still am a teacher and an educator. It's not acceptable for me, for our kids, to just think that what happened this period of time was okay, or somehow just another presidency. We have to make it very clear that what's happened in this term and the prior term are different than other presidents.
I agree.
And there has to be lessons learned in the corruption for future generations.
When I think back to our time in the Biden administration, I think one of the biggest balls that was dropped by the Department of Justice, and I know a lot of good people there who worked hard, was not holding folks accountable for doing things that are illegal, that are bad, that aren't right. And that's the one thing that our folks want. They want to know that if they can get prosecuted, then you can get prosecuted. Like, the law is the same for everybody, and it's not special for certain people. And I know the folks had good intentions. They didn't want to come across as being overly political, but it's not being overly political. You broke the law, then you should suffer the consequences of it.
So I agree. I think about obviously President Biden, and he did such great things for this country.
Yeah, I love the president.
And I think he just doesn't get the credit he deserves, particularly as it relates to getting us out of the pandemic and rebuilding our economy. But I have a lot of personal, sometimes anger at, I think, our Department of Justice during that period of time. And President Biden rightly created that separation.
Yeah.
Which should have always existed.
Exactly right.
You don't want a President Joe Biden or anyone directing the DOJ to go after these folks. And so the president did the right thing. But I think the leadership at the DOJ, they're great people, chose a path that in some ways there is some responsibility there as to where we are today.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard, and it's a shame to see.
Well, listen, we're winding down on our interview, and I've so enjoyed this. So when you become chairman, I need you to come back to at our table so that we can have a conversation about the agenda items that you're getting done. But first, we give out a special award on this show, and it's called the Sit Your Ass Down Award. I don't know if your team told you about it, but the Sit Your Ass Down Award goes to someone who deserves to sit their ass down because they are abusing power, they're undermining accountability, or they're just embarrassing the institution that they represent. So, Congressman, you get the opportunity to present this week's Sit Your Ass Down Award.
My Sit Your Ass Down Award would definitely go to Stephen Miller.
Yes.
I think he might be the most destructive force in the White House.
I agree.
He has a lot of power and is using that power to cause harm. And I can think of few people that have caused more harm than him.
He deserves a permanent Sit Your Ass Down Award. He would be in the Sit Your Ass Down Award Hall of Fame.
For sure.
He's just that awful. And I've never seen somebody that is just consumed with so much vitriol and hate. It really is like you can almost see it coming, like sweat coming out in the air. I mean, it's just it's sad to see somebody that is just just not a good person in no way, shape, or form. As we close on this, I want to close more on a personal note. For the young people who are watching, because young people are watching, they're watching how we conduct ourselves, they're watching what's going on in the world, and they are consumed by all of the negativity and the hatred that they see in our society. For the young person who's watching right now who may feel unseen or unheard, what do you want them to know about their place in this democracy? What can you say to them that will give them hope?
I would say to them that there is going to be an end to the Donald Trump presidency, and we all have to do our part to end it. And if we're going to end the era of Trump, it's going to require us to do the work every single day. And sometimes that work's going to be hard. We're not going to want to get up in the morning and do it. And it's going to require courage. And I think that's what we all have to be all in, is every day until that man is out of office, when we win that presidency back and when we win the House and the Senate, we've got to work really hard and have courage to stand up, because that destructive force that is right now occupying the people's house needs to be removed through a fair election.
Yeah. Anything you would like to share with the people about where to get information, or just any closing thoughts that you may have as we close this interview?
Look, obviously follow our work on Oversight, and also follow us on social media and support the party and give what you can, volunteer. It's an important part of elections.
Well, Congressman, we are so proud of you and so grateful to have you where you are, and the passion and the intellect that you're bringing. And we can't wait to call you Mr. Chairman and when we see you this time next year.
Thank you.
Thank you for being at our table.
Happy.
If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, be sure to subscribe to our Substack on jamieharrison.substack.com. At Our Table with Jaime Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hyder and Jaime Harrison. Our producer is Kyle Kelly. Our content consultants are Ernie Grigg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Lauren Brown. Inez Smolansky provides production legal. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. This episode was recorded at the DNC studios in Washington, D.C. and engineered by Johnny Wood, Jake Wofford, and Scott Brown. Very special thanks to Congressman Garcia and his team. I'm Jaime Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.